Good morning.
We're with the Running Network, and we want to do a post-day one recap on what we saw last night. Larry, we saw some interesting races last night, especially prelims always produce some good stories, and we did have that one captivating final of the women's 10K. Let's first start off with that beautiful 10K between Flanagan, Goucher, and Begley.
One of the most amazing races I've ever seen. I mean, I think there was two races there, as we were just chatting about. It was Shalane and Kara, and what was going to happen there between the dynamic between those two athletes, a front runner and an athlete, in Kara, who's a real championship runner.
Yeah.
And then you've got Amy Yoder Begley, who is training with Kara for the last few years, and they've known each other in just one of the most emotional races I've ever seen.
Yeah. I want to tell you, I noticed for especially Amy Begley, she ran within herself. She decided to push herself here at the Olympic trials in the 10K, knowing and running the scenario through her head she wasn't going to be able to do it. But she had to push it on Kara Goucher, her training partner, and the American record holder in the 10K. What kind of courage does that take?
I think it's huge courage. And look at just the numbers. This year, Amy's best 5K has been 15:46. She ran the last 5K of the 10 in 15:33. Her personal best is 15:24. And she really showed some guts, because at 8K, she took the lead.
Yeah.
And she hammered it for about 2.5 laps. But then she knew, because Kara told us later, that Kara was going to go with 3 to go. So she had to survive till Kara took off.
Yeah.
But then that last lap of 67.3 was just mind-boggling to me.
I don't know if you can see this on camera, but I'm getting goosebumps again after watching that race. It really was an amazing race. The other thing I noticed last night was the poise, focus, and I think it was self-described by Shalane herself, the fierceness that she brought to the race. And I think that's a level that's going to take it to the world level when she heads over to Beijing later this summer. Did you see that last night?
I think Shalane showed something completely new. She's the American record holder in the 5 and the 10 and the 3K indoor. I watched her in the 3K indoor with Meseret Artirnish Dababa about a year ago when she ran 8:33, and she's really got it, but she's always had injury problems. Mm-hmm. She seemed to have been able to overcome that. And a 5K, 10K double, as you know, is one of the most sadistic things that you could do to your body.
It is.
But I think she'll know how to race. I mean, it's going to come down to there's going to be 3 Ethiopians, 3 Kenyans, and there's going to be 3 Americans. And I think we've got shot for at least 1 medal, possibly 2, if they play it smart.
Yeah, me too. I see something happen. I see when an athlete goes from the warm fuzzies to sort of that, almost that glazed over ice look, self-contained faith. That this is my time, and there's something that's happened with Shalane Flanagan. She doesn't give us that warm fuzzy that Kara Goucher gives us, but that woman has a job, and it's to represent this country in a 10K like it's never been represented before, and it's exciting.
Jen Stasinski, the American record holder in the pole vault, her coach is Rick Sir, and Rick gave me this one great quote. We were chatting about it. He said, you can have a great coach with a great program that doesn't inspire the athlete, or you can have a pretty good coach with a modest program that's truly inspirational. I think Alberto Salazar and John Cook are both amazing coaches with great programs, but better than anything, they've sold their programs to the athletes. Mm-hmm. Coaches first are salespeople, and once they convince that athlete, Kara believes that she's fully prepared. Shalane does now finally too, because Cook is as tough a coach as Salazar, and it's going to be 2 different coaching methods for those top 3 athletes.
Yeah. All right, well, that's great. That makes a great transition to the next thing we want to talk about. That's the men's mile. We want to talk about moderate program of training. And the question is, we know Alan Webb has it in him, but can he pull it out? Any thoughts?
Well, he's run 147 and 3 for the 800 and 355. I think the guy's got it within him to make it. There are 6 people right now in the race with 6 different racing tactics, and it's going to be a fascinating race. Right now, I think it's going to be very, very tough. I pick him 3rd, on a bad day 4th. Lopez Lamont is looking good, but Lopez has got a little bit of a hamstring problem. I think Manzuko, am I going to mess up the gentleman's name from Texas? The NCAA champion?
I think so, right, yeah.
Yeah. He led from start to the finish in the 1500 in the NCs, and this guy can do it here. Legat is obviously tough, and Legat will be together as well. And I like Rankin and this kid Wheatley. Wheatley's a rock star. This is the kid from Oregon. Yeah. The crowd went nuts last night when he won his 800 heat.
He's in the 15 too?
He's in the 15 too, and he's run 3:36 the 337
Yeah.
in the 1500, and I think he's got a 146 time in the 800. But this kid,
145. He was
145?
yeah,
That was
he's
okay.
NCAA runner-up. Yeah,
Okay, sorry about
145.
that. So he's
Yeah.
got the wheels, man. That's gonna be,
yeah.
it's gonna make it interesting. So Allen's got to be on the top of his game.
Yeah.
That's the challenge right now.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people coming at him, and I think I have a little bit of a theory about it. He has a Porsche, access to a Porsche, and it's so difficult to manage that kind of excitement and that kind of power. And oftentimes, the greatest thoroughbred in the world needs someone to pull back on the reins. And when an athlete does workouts like this guy does workouts, who wants to pull back the reins?
Yeah.
Very, very few people.
Right.
And he doesn't necessarily have the self-control to do it, and coaches have a hard time as well. But that's where we're back to a moderate program and a coach that keeps that athlete within himself, and then the races, the performances really come out. As long as he can deny himself that temptation to gas it in practice. So, a lot of people out there will say 85% all the time, and that really is what does it. Let's finish up with the 5K last night, and I'd like to really sum it up with what I want to do and what I need to do to get to the final. And I think we saw some great performances by our perennial champions, especially Bernard Lagat as well as Matt Tegenkamp. And two of them had different approaches to Thomas Morgan, who decided to go out and blast, a few laps out there. And I wondered if you could comment on how you saw Tegenkamp and Lagat handle that stellar performance by Thomas Morgan.
Well, I have a prejudice because I'm a cheesehead. I live outside of Madison, Wisconsin, and Jerry Schumacher to me is as close to God as you get. He's got 3 athletes in there: Jonathan Riley, Tegenkamp, and Chris Zielinski. I watched Zielinski since he was a sophomore in high school. I'm picking 2 kids from Madison to make the team. Okay. I think Lagat can do whatever he wants. He could have a cup of tea, and with 50 meters to go, he's going to pop it. What Tegenkamp and what Zielinski will do is, with probably 3.5 laps to go, they're going to drop it to sub-4 pace, and they're going to make everybody hurt. But Adam Goucher has to get 13:15 if he wants to be on the team with his lovely wife. And Adam is one of the toughest athletes I've ever met in my life. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Lagat, all Lagat cares about is getting through the heats right now. He's the veteran. The guy's got leg speed, and he never, ever, ever puts himself in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So I'm always going to bet on him.
Okay. All right. Well, I know from my experience, I love to see a Tegenkamp. I'd love to see a Zielinski and a Jonathan Riley. Those 2 gazelles last night, Tegenkamp and Riley, covered those last 2 laps beautifully, absolutely within wonderful rhythm. The sign of 2 training partners, totally in sync, and they had a blast. They were just coming in fast from a long run.
62-2, 61-3, and a 30-second 200, and they were talking to each other,
Right.
which totally blew my mind. It was like watching the Kenyans run.
Yeah.
That was the beauty and the purity of that one,
Yeah, there's beautiful teamwork out there in a very individual sport. And let's finish it up on that. A couple of cheeseheads, yourself.
Yeah.
And this is Paul McMullen and
Larry Eder.
For the Running Network. And that's a recap from day one. Thank you so much.